Well, I think we're on live. I had a lot of confusion getting there. It was detouring me. Um, Looks good. I got to check it on the other device to make sure. Uh, Nothing's intuitive anymore. They make things so complicated. There's no intuition anymore. You just gotta stumble around and try to figure out what works. I'm going into the live stream to see if I got a live stream. Well, I lost my title, but that's okay. I don't know if anybody's really picking this up. See if I got a live stream. Well, I lost my title, but that's okay. I don't know if anybody's really paying attention. See if yeah, it looks like it's working. All right. I'll go with it. I'll put the title in later, I guess. I don't know. All right. Let me get a post or two up in the chat real quick. My name's Moshe, by the way. I come to you from Israel. I'm in Israel, in the Galilee. All right, I'm going to get my email address up if anybody wants to send in a prayer request, horse request, whatever you might want to send in. Okay. People are coming in. I got the posts up. So it looks like it's working. What we're going to talk about today is Trump and how he's waging all kinds of wars now. He's threatening Mexico to attack the cartels. He's in the process of executing an attack in Venezuela. There's about 20 warships gathered by Venezuela, plus there's aircraft assembled and a lot of other things. Landing ships with Expeditionary Force Marines, all sorts of stuff. He's going in. He's threatening Colombia lightly, so I wouldn't call that a heavy threat. He's threatening Nigeria, which, you see, he's telling Nigeria, well, you gotta make sure they stop killing the Christians. And Nigeria is sitting there thinking, well, if I tell the Muslim terrorists to stop killing the Christians, they're going to start killing me. So he's got a problem. Who's he going to fear more? The Muslim terrorists in his country, Satan's chosen people, or Trump? Good question. And he's threatening Mexico, Venezuela, and Nigeria. He submitted something to the UN, which will cover where he's going to be controlling with some other countries Gaza for about 2 years. And that would involve the disarmament to them, because you can't control anything until you disarm them. So I don't know much more about that yet. I doubt it'll pass. China and Russia will veto it. I think. I don't think they're going to go for it. And they did a targeted assassination in Yemen of a Houthi leader yesterday. So that means you could assume the so-called peace ceasefire deal he made with Yemen is over. And of course he threatens Iran. So the president of peace is getting pretty active. See, why does he want to stop the drug flow? The drug flow, amongst other things, causes money to go to entities that are not part of his export system. In other words, it's not like Westinghouse or someone else getting big contracts to make weapons. That's going to, I can't say for sure, give kickbacks to the Trump administration, but what do you think? You know, and there's all kinds of ways to give kickbacks. Some are considered legal, you know. So it's not really a kickback, it's more disguised. So you have that going on. And you got an outflow of money from the United States that doesn't benefit the Trump administration and the other billionaire experts that are in his club. And they don't like that. So then it also causes people to have to go into rehab. That's expensive. The government medical system pays a lot of times. Law enforcement gets increased drain on their time. Law enforcement subsidizes the states, the cities. You know, the federal government subsidizes them for law enforcement. You know, it's expense on the Coast Guard, on the DEA, in return the federal government. And he's not getting a gain out of it. The money ain't going to him. I like how he goes to Nigeria and he tells Nigeria, you know, you got to stop this or we're cutting all your aid off. And I think he cut the aid off. How could that moron give aid to Nigeria and not help the people that are homeless? Does any American ever understand this? If he cut aid to 10 or 12 idiot countries that are running around playing terrorist, you know, as Satan's chosen people, you know how many homeless people he can own? He doesn't care. They all don't care. Go be homeless. You're not a Satan bot. What do I care about you for? Really? And a lot of these homeless don't want to be homeless. In the 1950s, you know, homeless people really were alcoholics and stuff like that, you know. It's not the case anymore. In the Depression, there were homeless people that didn't want to be homeless. See, then Satan goes to his people and say, look, you're my children. Look how well you do. I take care of you. Look at the children that aren't mine. Look what happens to them. They live in the street. Then more people want to come over and serve Satan. It's terrible. Trump's a horrible president. People that go around saying Trump 2028 assume they're not going to be homeless because he won't pick up his little finger to help a homeless person. He's saying that he might get some partial funding for the EBT cards in a few weeks. It may be more time than 2 weeks, it may be a month. So the EBT card crisis is going to run. Is it going to cause trouble? Yeah. Well, we'll talk about all these things. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So, if any of you are having difficulty with the buffering or bad picture, please let me know. I don't see anybody saying anything. Okay. So, is Trump going to attack Mexico? Yeah, he's moving a landing ship into position to do that. He's not going to attack Mexico. He's going to attack the cartels. Do I think Trump will invade Mexico and do an overthrow or something like that, like with Venezuela? Oh no, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Unless they resist his efforts to bust out the cartels. See, the cartels is the Mexican government and the Colombian government and all these countries from Mexico to Argentina. The minimal level of this is probably Chile and Argentina. They probably have the least of it, but many, many other countries are cartel. The government is the cartel. So, they might start resisting, if they start, then Trump's got a real problem. But then he may start bothering the government and threaten the government. We see that in Jeremiah 50:51, dealing with daughter of Babylon, her walls are taken down, knocked out, burned, everything, right? The walls, the only walls they have are over 2,000 miles of walls between Mexico and the United States. This says broad walls. Well, that term can mean the long walls. It doesn't mean the walls are thick enough to drive a chariot on, okay? How did they get the chariot and the horses up there anyway? Oh, I know how they could do it. They just have a ramp. That would be easy. Have a long ramp, maybe 40, 50 yards. Well, it depends how high the wall is. If the wall's 16, 20 feet, you probably need a ramp of 100 feet, 200 feet, something like that. So it's not that steep, so the horse just pulls the chariot up the ramp, and then he runs around up there with them. They probably have a water trough up there for the horse, and then they take him down, Or the horse, I don't know, maybe they don't keep chariots up there, who knows, I don't know. But In the past, they were broad walls, so they don't really have to do it, you know, uh, all day long, you know. But maybe that was if they were being invaded, they brought horses up there or something like that. I don't know. So if somebody breached the wall with a ladder somewhere, they could get, as soon as they see the breach beginning, they could have a chariot drive at them, and they could have a guy shooting arrows off the chariot. One guy driving and one guy shooting arrows or something. I don't know. Anyway, look, let's get back to reality. So, what would he do in Mexico to hit the cartels? Well, he's not going to be able to hit the guys out on the streets selling bags of this and that, dope and whatever, right? Because they're in the streets, in the cities. So what he could hit is fields where they're growing things. Like, what could they be growing? Well, opium and cocaine and marijuana. Marijuana market, I think, is not so good for them anymore because there's so much of this medical marijuana flying around and people are buying that. It's costlier, I suppose, but I don't know. For a lot of people, they'd probably rather go that route. It's highly effective, so you don't need a lot of it, and it's legal, so, you know. All right. Cocaine and opium would be really good if they can grow opium there. I imagine they can. With opium, they can make heroin. With cocaine, they can make cocaine. But then they get fentanyl, which is more of a synthetic made in factories. And I think they mix fentanyl in with heroin, so they could have weak heroin that probably gives them the heroin feeling and the heroin high a little bit, but they bolster it with fentanyl. Which is cheap. Maybe they make speed and ecstasy. So there's factories. Are the factories likely to be in the inner city? No. Why? There's a high risk of them getting robbed by other thugs because they're not going to call the police. So that's the problem they have. So it's going to be on private land in the wild, okay? And these places could be hit with drones, missiles, airstrikes, helicopters, all sorts of things. Are the cartels going to have anti-missile systems? I doubt it. The government probably does. So if the government starts trying to help them, it'll look like you have no right to fly drones and missiles over our airspace. We're taking them down. And now that pits Trump against the government. Now, it's possible that the cartels are just the ones that stormed into America, knocking the walls down. How do you knock the walls down? How you ram them with a big truck or a not so big truck? Depends how they build them. if the wall's built right, it probably goes into the ground 20, 25 feet and goes up 25 feet. So you probably need a pretty good sized truck with a big solid bumper made out of all metal, and you ram it. That's all. That's about it. It's a see-through wall made out of metal. The metal's probably quarter of an inch, maybe an eighth. It'll come down. No doubt about it. Then a lot of civilians will run into Mexico. So it might not be a government invasion, it may just be the cartels. Let's see how many cartel members there are in Mexico total. Conglomerate them all together. I don't know how many there are. We can get it easily. How many drug cartel members are there in Mexico, combining all the different cartels together? I use AI on this. Let it do the research. It's much faster than me. It's around 175,000 as an estimated number. That's a good amount of people, considering they could get a lot of civilians to join in and start knocking down walls and swarming into America. So, Scripture indicates that'll happen. And Trump is following suit. He's definitely irritating the Mexican government. Now, the Mexican government is going to get tremendous pressure from the cartels. Tremendous. I mean, huge. Don't kid yourself. They're not going to be happy about this. I mean, someone wrote me, hold on a second. Someone is asking me questions about the timeline. I don't have a precise timeline when things are going to happen, so I can't help you. We don't know the day or the hour. We just have an estimate. We know we're in the end of the Daughter of Babylon, and we know we're in recompenses. That's what we know. We don't know more than that. We're in the what they call the year of recompenses, which I would call it the period or the time of recompenses, not a year. That's the best I can tell you. So you don't need me to write a big discourse, because I can't give you any accuracy. Nobody can honestly do that. Okay. So by attacking the, let's get you to, so Initial reports indicate a U.S. airstrike targeted an Al Qaeda leader in Yemen's uh, Marib government. Well, I would expect that would be the end of it. Maybe not, but I would think it would be the end of the Houthi peace deal. But maybe the Houthis don't care about that. I don't know. So he wasn't a Houthi guy, but he was Al Qaeda. So, well, I don't know what the Marib government is. Let's find out. That could be the Houthi government, and then I'll find out in a second. Oh, okay. No, it's not the Houthi government. It's part of the regular Yemen government. So that's likely not going to start a problem with the Houthis. But you never know. You don't know. Maybe it will. I don't know. I don't know if you could really say that the Houthis are wrapped up real tight, because I wouldn't really tell you that. I don't think they are. But it's more Trump making his version of peace, you know? So the ceasefire between him and the Houthis might hold, but it may not. I don't know. I go 50-50 on that. Okay. Uh, Hamas supporters in Ontario, that's in Canada, are calling on the municipal government of Milton, Ontario, to expel or exclude the Jewish community in Milton, Ontario. I guess Ontario is a state or a province and Milton is a city, and Hamas is trying to get, it must be a heavy Muslim community, and they're trying to get the Jews thrown out. Now, this sounds very, very, very much like 1940 Hitler or 1939. Very much so. Canada's likely going to turn against America completely, because there's forces that invade America from Canada. So Canada probably gets friendly with the more and more friendly with the enemies that come to attack America, and lets them use their land or whatever. It's getting worse and worse, and Trump is aggravating it. You know, what I say the mistake Trump's making is he's aggravating so many people at the same time, and then he's not taking into account that they, could just get together against him. We did hear some verbiage coming out of the Houthis in Yemen. The Season of Threats is the title here. Houthi Deputy Foreign Minister. See how they use titles like a legitimate government. Any attack by the Zionist enemy, that'd be us, on Yemen will draw up into so they're saying any attack, and Israel does, they're going to, it's saying that Yemen will draw it, meaning Israel, into a campaign whose consequences it, meaning Israel, not be able to control. So they're trying to make these threats. All these Muslim terrorists make threats, and they rarely ever go through with them. But I imagine he's threatening a ground invasion, but I don't know. He might not know either. He's just threatening. Sounds good. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine terrorist organization. This is what they said. Now, Israel's trying to get a death penalty put in place here for terrorists. So what the situation is now is there's no death penalty being used in Israel. Okay? So a terrorist, be it a juvenile, a woman, a man, an old man, a young man, or whatever you want. They're all different sizes, shapes, ages, sexes, whatever. Goes out and kills a Jew. It could be a baby, it could be an old person, a young person, a soldier, whatever. Kills or injures a Jew. Or they get arrested for terrorism. They get put in jail. Okay? And the Hamas gets him out of jail by doing prisoner exchanges. They just got a few thousand of them released from jail to go out and join the ranks of Hamas. With the exchange for the hostages they gave us. And they're getting dead bodies back too from people. We do the same thing. The difference with us is we have refrigeration for the dead bodies. Okay, I'm getting gruesome. All right. So what happens? With a death penalty, the terrorists go in, they're going to get maybe a civil trial, maybe a military trial. I guess it would depend where they did it. In the West Bank, it may revert to a military, or I don't know. One or the other. And it would be fast. And then they would get the death penalty, and they probably would execute him a day or two later. How would they execute him? I don't know. What are the viable options? Firing squad, hanging, and chemical injection. The hanging, I say, because the one death penalty we did execute was was his name Adolf Eichmann? I think his name was Adolf, whatever his name was, Eichmann. And we hung Eichmann, I think in the early 60s. We hung him. So He was worse than a terrorist. Okay, so we could hang them. It's a more on the gruesome side than the chemical injection, and it will it make more of a deterrent to these people? I don't know. The Hamas is going to bolster them up as, you know, your your martyrs. As soon as they kill you, boom, you'll be up in heaven with your 70 virgins rubbing your neck and your shoulders and your feet, and that's what they're going to believe. And then when they kick the bucket and an angel takes the spirit and throws him in the pit, well, they're not going to be that happy. So with the death penalty, it saves us a lot of money from housing terrorists. They're expensive. I guess when you start talking medical and everything else, you're 40,000 a year, maybe 50,000, something like that per terrorist. It's a lot of money. The cost of the trial and the execution is a pittance, but it removes the motivation for the Hamas, the Hezbollah, these types to grab hostages because there's nobody to trade with. Now, if the terrorist attempts to murder a person and fails to murder them, will they still keep him as a hostage? I believe so. I keep him as a prisoner. Not kill him. I don't know. They might say any act of terrorism is boom, you're going to get killed. You'll get the death penalty. I don't know. I mean, look, in America, you could get the death penalty for, espionage, sabotaging the government, stuff like that, right? So maybe they'll do that, or maybe if the person doesn't kill the victim, they don't give them the death penalty. I don't know how they're going to do it. I think the final version of it still has to emerge from the Knesset. So getting the chemical death is complicated because they're going to need to buy, in America, the prisons buy these chemicals from a very, very small amount of people that make them. It's not a big market, so who's going to go, how many people do they execute a year? Nobody really wants to get into that. So if Israel goes to buy it from somebody in America, what they'll do is boycott them, sit outside, play songs, how bad they are, and give them a black eye, go to the media and everything else. So they might refuse to sell the product to Israel because Israel is genocidal or something, right? It'll be a good thing. Netanyahu is an idiot that he didn't do this. His 23 years, he should have done it because it would reduce their motivation for taking prisoners. They wouldn't have been that motivated to do October 7th. Although there was a lot of massacre there, so maybe they would have done it anyway. Okay. And Netanyahu's a moron anyway because he exchanges these, he gives 20 or 50 terrorist prisons for one Israeli hostage. What does he do something like that for? He's a moron. He talks about what a good bargainer he is, and he does things like this. And Trump just doesn't say anything, lets it go. Maybe he wants to get rid of 2 or 3 thousand people out of the prisons to cut the bill. Could be. The guards can be deployed to another facility. If it's empty, you just keep a handful around to stop people from breaking in and looting it. And that's it. You can close prisons. So you could save millions. I don't know what that. But it's a stupid idea. A stupid idea. So Netanyahu never wanted to do death penalty. Ben-Gvir is threatening to blow the coalition up if he doesn't do it. So I guess Netanyahu may actually go for it. And they're talking about rising up against us if we do it. Of course they will. They pay the families of the terrorists if they get killed to go to jail for years. They want to make the terrorism so attractive that more people do it, not fewer people. Doing the death penalty is definitely going to deter from that. Now, I don't know how they're going to execute the person because you have to wait till the bill passes. The area of the humane way to go is the firing squad. They tie them up to a post, or sometimes they just have a round metal loop in the wall, and they get their hands and they handcuff them into that or tie their hands to that so they can't do anything, so they feel defenseless, of course, and then they cover them with a hood so they can't see, or blindfold, and then soldiers line up however many they want to use. Some of the soldiers have blanks, some of them have live, and they usually have them aimed for the heart area, and they give them a signal fire, and then the person might feel a brief amount of pain when the bullet hits, maybe not, and their lights will go out rather quickly. These are powerful rifle rounds. Well, if they're using the 223, no, but it still should kill them. So they might put 10 guys up and 5 have real bullets or something like that. The idea is to get 2 or 3 real rounds in them so they go out like a light quick. They don't want them, shoulder shots or something where they're yelling and screaming and they got to reload and hit them again. I don't want that. I think it's Thailand uses a machine gun to do it. They don't really use a soldier. They have a squad machine gun. I think it's a 30 caliber. It might be a 50. I believe it's water cooled. And they take the target and they measure where the target would be. It's over the person's, heart, and like a bullseye target goes up in front of the person's heart area, and they calibrate the machine gun before to hit that target. They estimate where it is, I guess, and then somebody presses a button and the machine gun just fires a whole clip, which is probably 20 rounds. So what happens is the person's standing there and the gun is trained right on that spot and it's not going to move. Somebody presses a button and it goes, it's probably 2 seconds, a second and a half, and that's it. The person's, dead right away. I mean, so that's a more a more painless way to do it, and it doesn't really involve the soldiers, multiple soldiers. It's much easier, and you just got to have one executioner. Now I know in the Florida prisons many years ago, I went to Rayford on a tour when I was studying criminology, and they took us to many prisons to learn about prisons. And I went to Rayford, and they took us to the electric chair, and they took us to the controls and this and that. Boy, did I feel a demonic presence there. Whoa, really heavy, you know. And the guards correction officers were telling us that there's a long list of volunteers to throw the switch, and work on the execution squad. That the guards have no compunction about doing it. These are people that are killers, and they're giving them a death sentence, which, it's like a biblical death sentence also, but, so they didn't have any compulsions about it, so they would take the person, I'm not going to go through it, but anyway, they would do it with the electric, but the electric chair is supposed to be painful. For a while anyway. The gas chamber was worse because they start gagging and stuff like that, They tell the people, don't hold your breath, just inhale. That's what they tell them. Who's going to do that? There's gruesome things that they have, but the chemical one is less gruesome because they absolutely knock the person out before they put the death-dealing drugs in them. I don't know exactly what they use to knock them out. They use a million things they could do. They could give them fentanyl. I don't know what they give. Then they give them potassium and some other things. So all the person knows is, they walk them in, they strap them down. Then the people that come there get to watch them. And the guy's probably rather petrified, and then they start the drugs, and they knock him out, and then the guy just, expires, that's all. That would be the worst way to do it with the terrorists, because it's too comforting for them, and the other thing is it's going to be a nightmare to get the drugs, unless Israel makes it in their own country. Okay, so they're really upset about this. The approval of that law will not pass without a Palestinian response. Harming our prisoners will be met with escalation on all fronts. So what they're thinking is some of these guys that are already in the prison that have been sentenced to life, they're thinking Israel justice system is going to allow for them to be retried and resentenced and put to death. I doubt that's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. They don't understand. So I don't think so. So the terrorists without the death penalty are told, so you'll have to sit in jail for a while, and we'll get you out on a prisoner exchange, that's all. And they know that, so they sit there and wait. Now, this is a rather concerning event. In New York City at the 14th Street station. Now, that's a big station in lower Manhattan. It's underground, the subway. It's not above ground, it's underground. You go on Express, you would go from 42nd Street to, I think, 14th, or sometimes you stop at 34th. But it's a big stop. And I lived once at 13th and 5th in Greenwich Village. So 14th would be a block over, and then I don't know where it was, but that's what I think I remember seeing the steps for it. But I can't place it good in my head anymore. So many years ago. But the 14th Street train station, which is underground, they found an explosive device on the tracks, and they suspended train service. I don't know for how long. I think the train service is running still. Um, they used the term suspected, but I think they were checking other train tracks too, trying to see if something was placed. So it's curious to me that somebody is interested in doing this. Now, they would likely get a much, much, much more devastating response if they did it on the elevated lines. The elevated lines are above ground by 25 to 30 feet. Not that high up. Now, that can vary. There's some places where I think they're 40, 50 feet up. Yeah, it varies. Generally, it's about 25, 30, but there are places where it gets a lot higher. It could get double. They're on heavy steel girders. I mean, these girders are thick. Cars and trucks have accidents and hit these girders, and all they do is scratch the paint on the girders. That's it. They don't do anything to these things. And then when it's Santa Claus season, they hang Christmas decorations off the subway stuff, and so it used to be you had to walk up 2 flights of steps to get up to the subway. That's the landing platform where you bought a token and you went through the turnstile. Then you had to go up more steps to get up to the track, the loading platform. So you might have been at 30 feet, 35 feet. I don't know. It wasn't terribly high. Maybe 35 feet. I can't remember clearly, but here's the point of this. The subway is very, very heavy. They make these things out of metal, okay? So they last and they last and they last, okay? And when you're above ground, you're on a track, okay? And they have little fences on both sides, but the fence is barely there in some places, and it's really just to keep the workmen from falling over or something like that, because they have a little walkway away from the tracks. So if they're working on the tracks or the electric or the control lights or the switches or whatever it might be, replacing wood beams or something, and the train's coming, they could get out of the way of the train, and the train could just pass, and they got some fence so they don't fall over. But it's some areas I don't even think there's a fence. So if you put an explosive device in there with any kind of power, and the subway came and it exploded and blew let's say the lead car up, it would probably go off to the side, and depending on what side it went, they're wide. If it went to the inward side, you got minimally one track this way and one track this way. But typically, you're going to have one track this way, one track this way, and at least 1 or 2 tracks in the center for an express, usually 2. So you're looking at like 4 tracks, or at least 3. So if the train gets exploded and it tilts inward, it's probably not going to fall down. But if it tilts outward, it's going to fall, and the cars are going to pull the other cars until they land on the ground. Then there's not going to be any more pulling, and it'll stop. So they usually put 10 cars on a train in the peak hour, and when it's not peak, they might have 4 or something, or 5. I don't know. 6. Who knows? And that would be I think rather dangerous. People downstairs, underneath it, depending where they put the bomb, could get hurt too, and depending what time of day. So a lot of this is gonna depend on, where and when. So doing it in the underground doesn't add up to me because you're gonna blow the car, and you may not really hurt people in the car unless you got a really powerful explosive. Because the floor of these things in the undercarriage of these cars is lots of metal. These things weigh a tremendous amount. They got big wheels, that are made out of solid, heavy duty steel. They got a roof that's made out of steel, walls that are made out of steel, flooring steel. Everything is steel, steel, steel. Weight. They're long. They must be a good 40 feet long, I guess. Maybe 50. I don't know. They're big. They couple them together, like this, and I don't know what would happen. You know, if it's on the ground and it's not a big explosive, people are going to probably get, bang their head, break an arm or a leg or something. If you had a huge, bomb, like, uh, you put a 50 gallon water, drum next to the track, and for some reason they didn't see it, and somebody pressed the detonator, that would do the job. But I don't know, you know, putting it in underground wasn't the right idea. But the person that did this could be very unfamiliar with New York, just knows Manhattan, and doesn't travel in Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx on the subways there, which are predominantly above ground. I think they're always above ground. It's only Manhattan that's underground. And even I think after World War II, they still had above ground in Manhattan. Still, yeah. I would have loved to ride the subway through Manhattan above ground, could see everything. But I, maybe as an infant, I was on it, and I don't remember. But when I can recall being on the subways with my mother as a little kid, you went underground. Just before, when you went from the Bronx to go underground, going to Manhattan, there was a slaughterhouse there, and it smelled horrible. I remember that. The odor, I could remember the odor. It was horrible. And there was a fish market also someplace around there, and you smelled the fish. That was horrible too. It had terrible odor, and a lot of times the train got stopped right there before you went in the tunnel. The guy had a red light; he had to stop, and then they went in. My grandfather came to America just before World War II from Russia, and he worked driving a milk wagon with a horse in Manhattan, I think, or it could have been Brooklyn. I think it was Manhattan. And then he went, he got a job as a conductor on the New York City subways. And the conductors make just about the same money as the engineer, who's the guy that drives it. It's weird, they pay him about the same. And the conductor's job is to, when it pulls into the station, the driver just sits there and doesn't do anything. And the conductor makes sure that, everybody that's getting off, nobody's stuck sticking in and out of the door. They didn't get their coat caught in the door. So he looks to the left and he opens up half the train doors. He looks to the right, he opens up the other half, and they get out. Or actually, when it pulls into stop, he opens all of them simultaneously. And then he stands and he looks out and he makes sure that people had a chance to get in. right? They're usually pretty nice. If they see you running, sometimes they're jackasses, and you're running, you just got up on the platform, you're running to get on the train, and the guy just, oh, you can go fly a kite, and shuts the doors and drives and leaves you standing there. And then you got to wait usually 10 minutes for the next train. But you living in New York, you get used to that lifestyle. Or sometimes, I guess it's half and half. Sometimes the guy just waits. He'll if the doors are closed and he's ready to take off, he'll reopen the door, which sends a signal to the motorman. That's the engineer. They call him a motorman, not to drive. I don't think the motorman is allowed to drive. I don't think the train will drive with the doors open. I don't think it'll move. And then he waits for you to get in, and then he shuts it. So there are nice ones, you know. And there's some that are not nice. And you get on. So the job of the conductor is, there's nothing he does in between stops. He doesn't do much of anything. Unless there's some crazy thing going on, like a fire or an accident. He doesn't do anything. He usually has a little area he can lock himself in. Like the motorman locks himself in a little area, a place where he sits down in the first car and he drives. And, you know, it's an interesting thing to watch, because you could stand in the front where they have a glass window on the car, and you can see what he sees, and you see what he goes through. And this stuff, he's getting signals all the time. He gets red lights, green lights, amber lights. He gets I don't know, all kinds of other signals. You know, now today they probably have a computer that does more of the work than he does. But anyway, it looked to me, it was a little bit confusing, but it wasn't much for him to do. He had a throttle control, and he would stop when he had to, and then he'd start again and push the throttle. So I don't know how much of that is manual today, but they make a lot of money. You know, if you stay with it enough years, you'd be making $100,000 a year, opening or closing doors on a subway. What do you got to go to college for? See what I'm saying? I knew a kid, and I realized this kid was smart. I saw him when I got out of college. He went to work at the sanitation department. He became a New York garbage man. So that means you get up early. You probably get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or 2 or 3 in the morning. Probably 3, and you probably leave your house at 4. Or you could probably get up at 3:30. No, I think they start at 4. So yeah, anyway, you could, get up around 3, quick cup of coffee or two, and then get in your car. You're going to probably live near where you work. And they would start their garbage run, basically picking garbage up. So at that time, they didn't have the cans that the garbage truck would pick up. The garbage men would take the metal. Oh, they had it. They loaded the metal can into this device on the truck, and it would pick it up and dump it upside down, and then put it back, and then they'd put the can back. The cans were metal. And, it was considered a dirty job, but it came with very good pay and benefits. And, there again, if you'd stayed on it long enough, you were probably making good money. Now, you didn't have to stay a garbage man. After some years, you could get worked up into other positions. They had, you could be driving the truck. I guess that was a better job, because when it was raining, snowing, or freezing cold, the guys would be riding on the truck in the cold and working, before dawn. I mean, the coldest part of the night, they'd be working, and you'd be sitting inside a heated truck, and when it rained, they'd get wet. You'd be in a heated truck. Uh, so that was, you had a better lifestyle. But they had other things. They had garbage dumps people worked at. They had snow plow guys that worked with the snow. Um, we had guys working at the beach, cleaning sand. They had a whole thing going on. People working with the sewers. I think they worked with the sewers. They even had sanitation police. They converted this and merged them into the New York City Police Department. But the the sanitation police wore the same uniform as the New York police. They had the same amount of schooling and training. They went for about 5 months to an academy. They had a badge identical to the New York City Police Department badge, except it said, instead of saying Police Department, it said Sanitation Department, and then it would say patrolman, or later on it said police officer. And they carried guns, and they had arrest powers, and they were full policemen. But they didn't work for the regular police department. They worked for the sanitation department. Weird. And they would go around and enforce the sanitation code about how garbage was kept and collected and, put out, and other things. And then they had a housing projects, Department of Housing police that only worked in the housing projects. They incorporated that into the regular police. But they used to have that, and they had the same thing, the same badge that said housing police. They were full police. And then they had the transit police, which were working on the subways. They were also for the buses, but they didn't do much. If the buses were getting robbed, they would go maybe undercover or maybe not undercover and ride on the buses to try to stop it. But they predominantly worked on the subways. And New York City ran ferries. Maybe they worked on the ferries too. I can't remember. I don't know. Probably. And they were full police, the same academy uniform that said Transit Authority Police. And then they had other police that worked for, they worked in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, I think. It was 3 states. No, maybe it was 2. I know they had 2. They worked like with the George Washington Bridge. I forgot, Port Authority Police. I think it was 3 states. They might still exist. I know it was Jersey and New York, and it might have had a 3rd state with Connecticut. I can't remember. I don't know why they would have Connecticut, but they definitely had those 2 states. So they were unusual police officers because they had full police power in New York and New Jersey. At the time, back then, the New York cop couldn't carry a gun in Jersey, and a Jersey cop couldn't carry it in New York. And they used to enforce it, more so Jersey than New York. So they took care of things like the bridge and buses and different things that were going on. There weren't very many of them. I doubt there were maybe 40 or 30 or something. Not many. Maybe 50, 60. I can't remember. So somebody put all these police departments together eventually because they figured it was a lot better idea. And then the corrections department in New York is huge. But that's not police, that's corrections. They have the same length of an academy, and they have the same pay, I believe. But they're basically turning locks. They're working in prisons in New York City, and they're, working as a corrections officer. They're turning locks, they're doing head counts, they're transporting, and, it's not police work, it's corrections work. It's sort of different. You're working with the same people, but it's a whole different environment. So anyway, Trump And that mayor, there's an election today in New York, and there's this mayor there. He's nuts. He wants to freeze the rents, so rents can't go up anymore. Well, New York has a lot of rent control apartments, which the rent can go up, but it goes up very little, like 1 or 2% a year or something like that. They can't really throw you out of the house. To throw you out of the house, the landlord has to move in. He can't throw you out. He goes through an eviction. You can appeal the eviction. It'll take months. It'll go to court. And if he's really going to move into the house and makes declarations to that effect, you'll have to move out. And if he doesn't move in, oh, the court will, oh, they put him in jail for fraud or something. Okay, so, but that is something that almost never happens, because how many landlords want to move in to a building they own? Because then every time somebody doesn't have hot water, they're going to come to him. They don't have heat, rather, or, radiator water. They don't get hot water. They don't get anything. They're going to bang on his door. So, it doesn't happen. So people can stay in these apartments for decades, and there's controls as to what they, then the question comes, when the person wants to move out after he lives there for 15, 20 years, the rent is very, very low, right? So what a lot of them do is they have a friend of theirs move in, okay? And if the landlord finds out about it, he could do an eviction. But most of them don't bother with that too much. Sometimes they do. Because then when he evicts them, then he could raise the rents a lot, San Francisco had that too. It was pretty good. Not as good as New York, but it was pretty good. So anyway, it also protects the people from when they move out, and the landlords go after them for damages. Like in Israel, it's horrible what they do. But in New York, they can't really do that. They can't really get there. So anyway, that's what goes on, and this mayor wants to make the public transportation free. Now, what is this idiot up to? 1 million people a day, I understand, ride the public transportation system in New York. That would be your buses and your subways predominantly, right? And each day they're gonna, I don't know what it is, $1.25 a trip or something like that. So, he's trying to, and they go back and forth. So he's trying to eliminate, $2 million a day out of the budget of New York. How does he, that's almost $1 billion a year. How does he do without that money? I don't know. Raise taxes? The taxes are already high there. You live in New York, you got to pay New York City income tax, New York State income tax, and federal income tax. What a delight, huh? Great place. Let's see what the sales tax is in New York. I'll bet that the state income tax probably goes to 13 or 15%. We can find out. Hang on. For a person living in New York City, how much is the sales tax now? No, no. So what it is 4% state tax. It's 8.875, so it's almost 9% tax on sales tax. Now let's see what the city income tax is. How high up does New York City income tax go? Well, it's tiered. If you make $0 to $12,000 a year, they still want to charge you 3%. So if somebody makes $5,000 a year, they want to charge 3% tax. If you make 12,000 to 25,000, this is the city. They want to charge you 3.76%. 25 to 50,000, 3.8. Okay, and then it doesn't really, 50,000 over 50,000 is 3.8. So it's basically 3.8. So that's your city tax. Now, what's New York State income tax? How much is New York State income tax? Four to 6%. So let's say, I don't know, 5%. So you've got about 9% state taxes and city taxes. Then comes your federal taxes, and you got almost 9% sales tax. $100,000 a year in New York City is probably nothing. $250,000 a year, you're probably doing enough, maybe getting by, maybe. It's rough. Let's see what the price of the subway. How much does it cost to ride the subway? I don't know anymore. How much does it cost to ride the subway in New York City? Oh, I was underestimating it. A single ride with a ticket from a machine is $3.25. For seniors, disability, it's half. If you There's another way you could pay $34 a week, and I think you get unlimited or something. $3.20. So people with a round trip are paying over $6 to ride this. I used to pay 15 cents when I used to take it to college, and I took those. It was 15 cents each way. I think when I was a small child, it was a nickel. I think I was too small to remember. 15 cents, 3.25. And this guy wants to eliminate that. It's crazy. You know what's real crazy? The cable car in San Francisco. Watch this one. How much does it cost to ride the cable car in San Francisco? $9. $9 for one way. If you're a senior, disabled, Medicare, during certain hours, 9 at night to 7 in the morning, the fare is only $4 for these people. Children aged 4 and under ride free. My gosh. See, the cable car in San Francisco never goes, I mean, maybe it'll go a half a mile or three quarters of a mile. I mean, I don't think any of the routes even go a mile. I don't think, maybe that'd be the most it would ever go a mile or so. A cable car. The most you'd ever see it go is a mile. I don't think even a mile. So it's only very close transportation. I used to pay a quarter when I was in graduate school. I lived on Nob Hill, and I would run out my door. There'd be a cable car there, and I had to run, oh, I don't know, 50 feet, 60 feet up to the corner, because that's where we stopped, and I'd get on the cable car. And I used to take it down to the bottom of Market Street. I took it on California Street down to Market and got off, and then I went to school. I walked a couple of blocks, maybe 2 blocks, and I'd go to school there, graduate school. And I used it for transportation. And this is a left-wing lunatic government that is sucking money up because they don't know how to do all the support for people they're trying to support, and um, they're trying to make tourist money because the tourists love riding a cable car. So, my gosh, I would never use it. I mean, to go, I used to take the cable car for a quarter, and it was about maybe 9 block ride, 10 blocks, a half a mile, maybe something like that, maybe not even. And for a quarter, I did it. I was able to walk it. I walked it. But I had a lot of my classes at night, and it was cold. Oh boy, I tell you, and those cable cars are rough in the rain, because many of the seats are outside the cable car. They're on the side, and the rain gets you. Inside, the rain won't get you, but there's seats inside. They actually hold more people than you think, and then you can have standing room. But anyway. I wonder what BART costs. How much does it cost to ride BART in San Francisco? It's going to tell me it depends on the route, but let's see what it says. You got to use a fare calculator. BART is like a very modern subway system. The average fee is $4.72. The shorter trip might be less. Let's see what they want for the buses in San Francisco. Let's see. How much is regular bus fare in San Francisco or a streetcar? They have electric streetcars in San Francisco. $2.85 for one way. That's if you buy it in a machine. If you pay cash on the bus, it's $3. Seniors pay $1.40. Yeah, it's nuts, the price of this stuff. It's, I don't know how people live anymore. It's so expensive, Let's see what the ferry costs to go to Staten Island. How much does it cost to ride the New York City ferry to Staten Island? I think it used to be 15 cents when I did it as a kid once my father took me. It's free? However, note this does not apply to New York City ferry routes which do charge fares. Oh, I asked them the wrong question. Okay. The New York. How much does it cost to ride the New York City Transit Authority Staten Island ferry? No, it's still free. I don't know how that happens, but it's free. They don't charge at all. How weird. Okay. Who knows? Um, I never knew that, but wow. That's a lot of money for riding these public transportation systems, I'll tell you. I don't know what the tolls are for the throughways. I haven't been in that place in decades. So I don't know. We got toll roads here too. Um, they're not that bad, but you know they're there. You know they hit you with tolls. Netanyahu tax anything he can. He's such a rotten leader, such a bad person. So I don't know what's going to be with Trump. He's definitely invading Venezuela. He's threatening Nigeria. He's positioning Navy ships near Mexico. So I guess he's going to. This Mexico thing can get crazy. See, Bolivia and Colombia are very likely maybe going to help Venezuela. Okay? Mexico's pretty far away from Venezuela, I think. Let's look at a map. Because Mexico's got parts and, let's take a look. Um, Boy, that's one lousy map. All right. No, I think Mexico doesn't get close to Venezuela. I don't think Mexico and Venezuela are friends. They may start getting friendly, but I don't think so. Pretty weird. So this is what he calls himself, the president of peace, you know? He could really cause a lot of damage to happen to America, you know? He could. It's a lot of people Trump's going after. Don't forget that he's irritating the daylights out of Russia. Now, the UK sent a shipment of Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine, but we don't know how many. The Storm Shadow is not a Tomahawk. Way, way, way downplayed from a Tomahawk. It's 155-mile range. Now that makes it, I would say, at the low end of long-range missiles, or maybe it's the low end of medium-range missiles is probably more accurate. But it's enough for Ukraine to sling them into Russian territory and cause a lot of problems. I believe he could hit in the Moscow area with that. It's trouble for Putin. Real trouble. How many we got, we don't know. To give you an idea what the problems are in Israel right now, 900 drones from Egypt and generally the Rafah area were flown into Israel in 3 months, smuggling drugs and weapons. Now, they also try to smuggle them into Gaza. 900, that's 10 a day. Okay? That's Egypt. And, you know, Netanyahu acts like Egypt's our friend, that moron, the curse of Israel. How could that be? They're not our friends. They let Gaza smuggle all the weapons and the material to make hundreds of miles of tunnels, you know, the concrete. You know, they're not our friends. He likes us to think they are. So Trump has now said that he likes Como. He wants to back Como. And if the guy, what's his name? Mamdani wins, he's going to withdraw or withhold the federal funds that go to him, to the New York, which is probably a fortune. Remember, Trump has a house in New York, you know, as Trump Tower, and he lived in New York quite a bit, so he seems to be pretty close to New York. So Trump's latest in his administration is he sent a draft to the UN Security Council. That's the real thing. And it's a resolution to establish an international force in Gaza that would give the U.S. and other participating countries a broad 2-year mandate to govern Gaza and be in charge of security there. Now, I don't know if they would disarm Gaza, well, basically disarm Hamas. I think so. Trump understands real estate building construction, and he knows what Hamas would do. They would shake down the people doing the renovation and the building in Gaza and doing the streets over, say, you want to work here, you got to give us 25%, you know. Trump and the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Israel and other countries have said you can't do reconstruction of Gaza with Hamas there. You can't have it. So the chances are they would disarm Hamas. I feel rather strongly that they would, because I don't know how they could do it without doing that. So now Trump's going to get himself in a position to fight against Hamas, because they're not just going to say, oh, Trump's here, we better surrender. It won't go that way. And sleeper agents from various countries and criminal elements in various countries may be recruited by various governments to join sleeper agents and turn against the U.S. government in America, which sabotage in America. Whoever did that bomb on the subway in 14th Street is definitely some sort of saboteur. It doesn't sound like some specific racial event because they don't know who the heck's going to be on the subway when they blow it up. Is somebody just hating America? So I would feel rather secure that Russia or China would veto it or ask to be placed on this Security Council, and I don't think it's going to go. They'll be in charge of securing the Gaza Strip's borders with Israel and Egypt, ensuring the safety of civilians and humanitarian zones, and training new Palestinian police officers who will partner with them, I guess. Now, this is, you see, man's mandate. This is what man wants, not what God wants. Okay? If they're talking about making a police department, that means that Hamas is gone because Hamas has their own police department now. The San Antonio amphibious class transport docking ship, the USS Fort Lauderdale, has left Mayport, Florida, and is returning to the Caribbean to rejoin two Iwo Jima amphibious ready group. These are the landing ships. 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit. A U.S. official confirms the vessel left on Sunday and is now south of Miami in the Straits of Florida. It will provide additional air and troop support once it arrives on station. These ships, of which there's now 3 of them by Venezuela, plus a real aircraft carrier, can launch and retrieve 2 CH-5E Super Stallion helicopters or 2 MV-22 tilt-rotor aircraft, up to 4 AH-12 UH-1Y or MH-60 helicopters at once. In addition, they can carry landing craft air cushioned or air cushioned hovercraft. They're saying that this force is not just for Venezuela, it's also for Mexico, striking cartels inside Mexico. These ships, these amphibious ships, can carry, it's usually around 2,000 Marines, give or take a few hundred, and they can carry a handful of vertical takeoff jets and a bunch of helicopters. And they carry a little bit of tanks with them, armored personnel carrier, jeeps, artillery, mobile artillery, an assortment of things to help the soldiers land. So when the soldiers want to land, they can have fighter jets covering them, helicopters covering them, and the ship covering them. And I guess the ship could launch some kind of missiles or something. I'm not sure. But there's other ships that can definitely launch a lot of missiles over there also. Plus the big aircraft carriers. So, Trump's going full tilt here. And why is he bringing these Marines in? Are they going to land? Well, if they're going to land, that means they're going to get rid of Maduro. And that's what I believe Trump intends to do, get rid of Maduro. And you got to understand that, now he could have, probably he's got around 7,000 Expeditionary Force Marines. That's a pretty significant force when you consider they're going to have a fantastic air support, the best air support in the world. So it's pretty interesting. The San Antonio class amphibious transport dock ship. Oh, we read that already. Yeah, no, we covered that. So these ships are like little baby aircraft carriers because they launch aircraft and they carry troops and they have other equipment that the troops need when they land. Now he's got more aircraft. He's got F-35s and stuff in Puerto Rico and other places in the Caribbean that'll work to I don't know if Trump is still continuing to build forces up. I mean, like he might want to bring another aircraft carrier down there. I don't know why, but maybe. I don't know. No idea. Now, going back to Gaza, Trump is trying to set Turkey up in Gaza for a role there in, running Gaza after Hamas is disarmed. And Israel, of course, knows that Turkey threatens to annihilate Israel. He threatened that many, many times, so we understand it's stupid to back Turkey for anything. All right. it's Trump is definitely keeping us interested. So he's stacking things up like crazy. I mean, it should be troubling. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen with these wars. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. What if Mexico, Colombia, and Bolivia decide to gang up against Trump, and Russia and China think it's worthwhile helping them, and they bring weapons over for them? Do you ever think of that? Russia would love to do it because America gives weapons to Ukraine. China would love to do it because America gives weapons to South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. What if this thing starts and somebody sinks an aircraft carrier or a destroyer or a missile cruiser or several vessels? What the heck happens then? Do you think it's possible that Trump would actually get into a war with Mexico? I mean, let's read the scriptures about Daughter of Babylon's walls going down. Maybe we never figured this right. Maybe it actually is a war with Mexico amongst other countries. Maybe Mexico joins other countries. But definitely Mexico does something because they're knocking the walls down. Let me get the right words so I can find the verses. All right. We're in Jeremiah 50, verse 15, King James. Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand. That means surrender, I believe. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. Those are the only walls I know of. For it is the vengeance of Jehovah. Take vengeance upon her as she hath done, do unto her. Okay. Now let's go to Jeremiah 50, verse 32. And the most proud shall stumble and fall. Satan bots are the most proud. And none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all around about him. And I'm telling you, every day in Southern California, I see 2 or 3 new fires. At least, every single day. It's been going on the whole year. Um, Now we're in verse 30, Jeremiah 51, verse 30. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They're afraid to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might hath failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. Jeremiah 51:44. And I will punish Bel, that's one of the demon idols from the old Babylon, where Iraq is today. I'll punish Bel in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together anymore unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. That's the only wall I know, and it says it'll fall. Maybe he knocks it down. I don't know. Let's read the next. Jeremiah 51, verse 58. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the broad walls of Babylon. I believe that can mean the long walls too. It's just the way the Hebrew doesn't go into English too great. The broad walls of Babylon shall be utterly broken. We don't have any broad walls that I know of, really, except prisons have them, but that's about it. The broad walls of Babylon, or Babel, shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folks in the fire, well, we talked about the fires, and they shall be weary. So the only walls I know of in America is the Mexico-America border. Where else is there walls? They don't have walls with Canada. They don't have walls with the Pacific, the Atlantic, or the Gulf of America. Where else do they have walls, you know? So that gives us a very strong indication that something is going to happen with America with Mexico against America. It could be just the cartels are peeved and they go start knocking walls down, or it runs deeper, you know. I don't know. But when he's cranking off the cartels, he's cranking off the government. It's the same thing. The government is there to protect the cartels. The government protecting the cartels could be making, you know, he could be getting $100 million a year. He could be getting at least that, maybe $1 billion a year. So I think maybe we're there now, right? He's moving one of those landing ships into position, I think, to deal with Mexico. But he's definitely threatening Mexico, and I believe he's moving that ship. So things are getting interesting over there. And also, he's getting into uh, posture to turn against Israel, because he's going to be, if the UN does pass his craziness with this Gaza thing, then he's going to put troops in Gaza, and that could get him to turn against Israel. How could that happen? Well, Hamas starts shooting missiles or drones or fire balloons or whatever, throwing ordnance into Gaza, and America says, "Oh, we're not going to blow the peace deal up over a few missiles." Read between the lines. Stinking Jews, take the missiles and shut up. You know, and then fires back at them, and then the thing blows up, and then at some point Trump or whoever replaces him, if he dies of old age or whatever, would turn against Israel and do harmful things to Israelis in our sight. In our sight. As a scripture about that. I'll find it for you. Jeremiah 51, verse 24. And I will render unto Babel and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea, that's America, daughter of Babylon, America, all their evil that they have done in Zion, that's here, in your sight. They're going to be here. Now Trump's setting himself up to be here. You see pieces are coming together. In your sight, saith the Lord. Jeremiah 51, verse 10. Jehovah hath brought forth our righteousness. That's the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds, redemption. Our righteousness, come and let us declare in Zion the work of Jehovah our God. So that means the people coming from America on the next Exodus are going to tell us what he did, what Jehovah did in America, which is going to be pretty bad for America. There's another scripture, but I don't think it's highly relevant. Jeremiah 51:56. Because the spoiler is come upon her, upon Babylon, or Babel, it means confusion, and her mighty men are taken, every one of their bows is broken. Every one of her bows is broken. A bow would be a missile launcher, I believe. The missile is the arrow. Think about it, right? And the bow is the missile launcher. It projects the arrow. So we're still, we're marching forward and forward. We got the fires, we got earthquakes, we got disturbances, which is in Mark 13, which is your protests, your demonstrations and stuff. We got ruler against ruler. The judges keep telling their rulers, and they keep telling Trump what to do and what not to do. And and the governors don't like him, and mayors don't like him, and that could escalate. I don't know. So that's going on. So Trump's got issues, with opposition. Ruler against ruler. So it's getting there. We're moving forward. Now you got to remember, it can just go like that. The Lord could light it up and crank it up tenfold in speed. You don't know. We're not going to know the day of the hour. Okay? I don't think it's tomorrow because we haven't seen Elijah working yet. But then on the other hand, maybe he works after. I don't think so. I mean, you just got to not try to nail this down like you know everything in time frame. Time frame is not something you get the privilege of really having down pat. You're not going to get that on purpose. So we just got to plod along, and wait for it. So the internet company came yesterday, and they said that's all we can do. We can't do any more. You're getting what you're supposed to get. So I'm getting 600 megabits per second or so in the middle of the day on a Wi-Fi, not with a cable connection. Broadcasting the signal to the device I'm broadcasting off of. It's not hardwired in. And he says that's it. Now, even though they advertise up to 2,500, the liars, right? So I got out of them, what do people get that use a computer that hardwire it into the router? It says they get 1,700, which is all roughly approaching triple what I get. But I can't put it in with a hard wire because I can't go anywhere then. I got to stay in one place with it, Unless I have them put an additional line in the office, but that's a lot of money. And then I got to change devices. I'm not doing that. So there's another way I could go with this, and it requires money that I don't think I have to spare. There's routers you can buy that are more advanced than the router they give you. And you take this new router and you plug it into the existing router with a hard cable, and you get the full speed that way. Because it's in a more advanced router than the one they gave, you're probably not going to be at 1,700. You're probably going to be at 2,300, 2,400, 2,500, something like that. Okay? And that's a wireless transmitter also. And then I pick it up wireless, so it'll knock me down because it's wireless and there'll be a distance, but I might wind up with 1,500 or 1,400 instead of 6. The other thing is the upload. The upload is what's important on a live stream, but I imagine the live stream's working okay. I'm going to take a chance and try to do a speed check on the live stream now just to see what's going on. It may cause buffering because the speed check drains your resources. I don't think it'll cut us off. If it looks like it is, I'll close the speed check. Seconds, and it's probably not going to cut us. All right. This is, I believe, an speed check. All right, here we go. I'm getting like 339, 340. See, I'm getting like a regular line, not a fiber optic. That's what you should be getting. And then on the upload, I'm getting 75. See, on the upload, I shouldn't be getting 75. I should be getting like, 600. I've been studying it, way, way, way better. So the uploads would be really good, but I think they're good enough now. Now I'm going to test, I think it's turned on, one of my old lines that I have as a backup. That's a rather advanced internet, but it's not fiber optic, and see what I get. If it's on, my wife could have turned it off. Hold on. If she turned it off, that's the end of it. Let's see. I think she turned it off. I don't think it's on. Let me see. No. No, it's not showing anything. I think she shut it. I can't do that. But I'm getting speeds that are like a regular network and I've got this fiber optic in. So I spoke to the people that I go through a company that is a reseller, and they're all English speakers in Israel, and it's much easier for me to talk to them because, trying to think about what's a router, what's a modem, what's a wireless router. I'm going to get a new router that's going to be a Series 6 or a 7. It's hard to talk technical Hebrew, so they can't. So I use them. So I call them up and they talk to the company. They get on 3 ways with me and stuff like that. And it's easier because they control many, many accounts, so the company treats them with respect. Where with me, they're going to not treat me with respect. Of course, there's no customer service in Israel. It's scarce, just about non-existent. But when, with these guys, they got to take them seriously because they control so many accounts. So I spoke to the guy and I told him what's going on. I said, I'm getting speeds at 300, even 200, and I'm supposed to be getting 2,500. 2,500, so I'm getting like a 12th. And they're telling me it's normal. So, and I said, sometimes on the upload, I'm getting 10, and they're telling me it's normal. So he said, okay. Let me call the other companies we can get with fiber optic and see what they tell us. See, what I think we're going to find, because they have price fixing in Israel, and all the companies are going to tell you the same thing, and it's in their best interest to keep you from getting all the bandwidth that they promise you, because then they have to make more bandwidth or buy more bandwidth from somebody. So it's in their best interest to keep it down. And what this vermin do is, when you live in a hub like I do, and more people are using the devices during the day or the night or whatever, your bandwidth drops because you're sharing with your neighborhood. See what the vermin do? So everybody's getting different readings depending on what kind of hub they put you in. And this is deceptive pricing and advertising that should be illegal. And they shouldn't do it. But they do, because Netanyahu lets anybody do anything that's going to take care of his political party. That's the problem when you're living with the curse of Israel. So we got to put up with this. So I don't know what it'll be. I don't know. If I want an answer, the answer that I'm told would likely work is to buy the other router. Now, I might be able to buy the other router and install it directly with the line from the company, but I would say that's a 10% chance. Probably very slight chance, because they like to, they won't, I'm sure they won't do that. So I could hook it into their router, and it gets the connection really, without losing anything. So it should get the 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 cable should get, out of the 2500, it should get at least 2400 or something like that. And then that passes it on to the other router, and the other router is not going to lose anything or very little. And then I'm going to lose some in the broadcast. So like I say, I think I'd probably get 14, 15, 17, 1800, something like that. And I think the upload, instead of, like we're doing good now with 79, it would be probably 500, 700. It would be amazingly better. And that would run me about $500, which is hard for me to come up with now. So I throw that out there. I don't know if anybody has any feelings about that. You can give me a call if you want. Give me an email. And we could talk if you want. We can go from the email to WhatsApp. The other thing is, the tourism seems to be going back in Israel. We haven't had tourism operating here really since COVID. I think the tourism stopped around about 2019 or 2020 it stopped. The COVID, and then came the wars, so we never had anything really going on anymore. Except we had friends come, people we knew, stuff like that. So it used to be, the idea of this place was that the guest would pay the rent. And it could work that way easily, but some people wanted to stay here. And I told my wife, hey, we can put these people in, we'll make good money, they were going to stay for 2 weeks. That goes into the thousands, And she said, no, we can't. What do you mean? I said, well, she said, look, we ignored the place for years. The plaster is falling off of walls in places. It leaks, and the landlords don't repair things in Israel. Either you repair it or it doesn't get repaired, or you move out. Okay? So he doesn't repair it. So she says, we have to fix that. We can't let people stay here with plaster falling down. I don't really think you can. And then you got to paint over it, and it needs painting in other places and spot repair. And then it needs a good cleaning. So we have a lady that cleans, because my wife has after the stroke, she can't clean that much. And I can try cleaning, but with my vision, I miss places. I don't do too good. So I don't think the disability is going to work out. I don't think the Lord wants us to do it, and I don't think we're going to get anywhere going down that rabbit hole. So I'm not pursuing that right now. I don't think He wants me doing it. So we're thinking about, should we pay to fix the place? My wife thinks it'll cost about $1,000, because we have to hire somebody that knows what they're doing to repair the plaster and then paint, and there's other things that need fixing, because it's been years since we had friends stay there for free, but paid people, it's been years, so we got to get that going. Then I think that's what we got to go to work on. And that's, again, money we don't really have to spend on that. So I'm worried about that, and I don't know how long the tourism is going to last. So I'm a little hesitant to just jump in on the tourism, because I'm not sure how long it's going to last. I got to watch this a little closer. Right now, tourism is filling up. People are booking to come here for Passover, which would be next year in the spring. They're coming for Passover here. The Jews, not booking, they're booking trips with the airlines. Half the airlines that stopped, most of the airlines stopped flying to Israel with the war. Now half of them have come back. And I would think if things hold for 2 or 3 more weeks, we'll probably be at about 75 to 80% of them coming back. I'm noticing you can get shipments to Israel from different companies easier again. Not as good as it was. It was so good with Amazon. They would send stuff in we were getting stuff in less than a week. Not the free shipping, which is the mail or the other kind, but we would get stuff within a week, less than it. Now I think we're probably at 10, 12 days, but we were at 3 to 4 weeks for a while. So it'll get back. It'll get back quickly because the airlines want to come. They want to make money. So it'll come around the mountain. And the Red Sea is open again. So far, so good. So getting, goods into the supermarkets should improve now because they won't have to go all the way around Africa and increase the prices. Things will go through the Red Sea into the Mediterranean, into Israel, and things will be cheaper and better, and we'll get things more quickly and stuff like that. Of course, the Muslims that hate us around Israel, our lovely neighbors, will do all they can to make things worse again for us, And a lot of our problem is, companies like, Sam's Club and Price Club and the big Walmarts, and they'll open up in the Muslim countries. They're all over those places. And they get goods in cheap. But they won't open up in Israel because then they'll get boycotted with the Muslims who hate us. So we don't have any good retailers in Israel that I ever saw. We got garbage retailers here that want to fleece us. That's all we get. Satan bought bums, period. And I mean bums of the highest order. That just, these people that own the big retailers and the people in Israel that are Satan bots and all the Satan bots, they believe that he who dies with the most toys wins. These idiots think they're gods. They think Satan's a god. If they could only see what he really looks like, they don't know he disguises his appearance to them. It's just, he's such a piece of garbage, Satan. And the people that follow him are so dumb and stupid. And they believe everything. Yeah, look, you toss the demons out of them and they still plot on, oh, our God's God. Little old us tosses the gods out of them and they still believe they're gods. Do you understand what we're dealing with? How thick and stupid these people are that serve the unclean spirits? They're the complete morons of the earth. Look what Trump's doing. He's stepping in landmines all over the place and he keeps digging himself in deeper and deeper. Look at Putin and Zelensky, two Satan bots. Very transactional Satan bots. And look at how stupid they are. What are they accomplishing? Look at Iran. Their water supply the fish are dying now in Iran because the water's so low. I heard 2 weeks is up. What are these morons running Iran, these Satan bot morons? They're not Muslims, they're Satan bots. They just lie about being more Muslims to suck the people in. They know it's not real. What are they going to do when their water dries up? Order 50,000 bottles of, or 50 tanker ships full of Evian water. What are they going to do? They're not going to fill their oil tankers up with water. They'd have to sanitize the ships. They're not going to get that done. What are they going to, and they couldn't do it. They'd have to bring so many ships in. Forget about it. I don't know what they're going to do. The scripture tells us they're all going to have to leave and scatter into all the countries of the world. And that is for Elam, which likely includes Iraq, and they're having a water drought of a big scale, just like Iran. It could also include pieces of Syria, but on that I'm not so sure. So that's probably just one ingredient. It says things about her enemies, plural, going after her, and she gets the sword too. So she's going to be attacked. Okay? And it tells us that Yemen is going to be attacked. It's called Edom in the Bible. It's all in Jeremiah 49. It's going to be attacked and be a wasteland forever. And we're threatening, it was in yesterday's paper, we were threatening Yemen. I think Katz or some other, the foreign minister or the defense minister, said that we haven't finished our score with you yet. So they're going to go after Yemen again. But they're going to try to deactivate Yemen. In other words, destroy the Houthis. The Yemen government is not going to do anything to take the weapons away from the Houthis. Neither will the Lebanese government take the weapons away from Hezbollah. Israel's going to have meetings now with Lebanon, and we're going to tell them, hey, you have not done what you said you were going to do with disarming them. No, we're not interested in you getting a continuance and waiting. These people are building missiles, stockpiling, getting ready to kill us. Destroy our buildings and our houses. Sorry, we're not letting that happen. Okay, you're not going to take them out. We will. You want to try to stop us? You could try. They have not much to fight with. They can't do much. And we're attacking things pertaining to Hezbollah multiple times every day now. And have been for weeks and weeks and weeks. And are we going to make believe we got a nice ceasefire going on up there that they want us to believe, you know? That's the stuff they want us to believe, but it's not real. It ain't real. It's rough up there. So the Lebanese are talking about, doing something with Israel. And what are they going to do to us? They can't do anything. We're not going to sit there and let Hezbollah grow and attack us for what? We're just not going to do that. We're not stupid. So I think all the problems with the buffering and getting cut off and stuff in the past was due to bandwidth trouble. Now maybe somebody caused the bandwidth trouble, I don't know, but I can't get anywhere with this internet company. They're telling me that's, what it is. They're telling me that your iPad will only go up to speeds of 1,000, but I never heard that. Wait, I could check that. Let's check it. I never came across that. But let's find out. It should be quick. Does the iPad Pro have a speed limitation pertaining to fiber optic cable? I'm reading this discourse. Hold on. Well, as long as I could tell, let's see, it's telling me if I've got an iPad Pro from M1 or M2, I can't remember if, I think I have two, I can get 1.5 to, so I could get 1,500 to 2,300. If I have the one, I only get 1,300, 1,200. But that's like 12 for double what I'm getting now. Uh, yeah. So it's not that there's any limit. It's just your Wi-Fi is the limit. Uh, Maybe the hey Siri,
Mm-hmm.
do I have the M1 or the M2 processor in this device?
Here's what I found.
I have to look it up. I think it's the two. Uh, this was one of the better iPads I got, and I think this one was bought around 2023, not that long ago, uh, 2 to 3 years, yeah. So it might even be a 3 or something, but it has like a terabit of memory and stuff, and has a lot of RAM. This was a really good one. So it probably is a 2, I think. So it should go a lot higher. So I got to research that. If it's not a 2, then using this with that other that other router might only get it up to 1,000, but still, it's a substantial difference. You know, it's still very, the download's not the critical thing. The critical thing is the upload. You know, so the upload might go from like 79 or 100 to 250 or 195 or something like that. So that's what I'm really interested in. Uh, Living in Israel, everybody's so nasty and deceitful. It's not everybody, it's almost everybody. But it's bad. It's bad. So, do I have any questions from anybody? Let me look. No, I don't think so. So, what can I tell you with Trump? I said, well, you've got a major problem brewing with the food stamps. If it's going to go bad with the food stamps, and maybe it will and maybe it won't, right? Do any of you know? Can you give me a written guarantee that it will go bad? I mean, you don't know. Okay, if it does go bad, what's it going to look like? Well, the food banks are already overwhelmed. So the amount of overwhelmingness hitting the food bank is going to be massively higher. 42 million people are affected. 39% are children. The elderly people that are affected and the people that are severely disabled, like the blind and the amputees and the severely crippled and the shut-in, what are they going to do? You know, other people are going to get organized by provocateurs, anti-America people that are going to try to organize protests and get people to come down to protests. And when the protests prove empty, which will happen in a couple of days, if they start protesting, then they're going to organize people to gather in large quantities and storm into supermarkets. They'll tell them how to do it, and just like massively shoplift with the cameras on and everything and just take out the food. The supermarkets will most likely close after they've been depleted. That's it. People will try to steal the cash registers, and that could happen too. It could. They'll try to take everything out of the place. The people that work there are going to get scared and run away. The stores are not going to reopen if they get looted like that. They won't reopen. They'll board up the windows and wait it out. That'll make things worse. If the big stores are boarded up and you can't raid them anymore, then you gotta raid the little stores, and they shoot. So first you'll see the food banks get hit, you'll see protests, you'll see the food banks get overwhelmed, and then people may storm into the food banks and clean them out. And then the food banks probably will not close. They'll probably try to keep reopening and just try to get people to behave in an orderly fashion. And if it gets to hitting the supermarkets, you have to be aware that the supermarkets are going to get hit once and they're going to shut. And other supermarkets are going to shut also before they get looted. Most of these guys are going to be self-insuring for things like that. Okay? They're going to have insurance, but I think it's going to be mostly for flooding, like hurricanes and flooding, and fire. Maybe destruction from hail or other stuff, I don't know. You know, but the looting and the robbing, I think they handle that on their own. And the insurance on the fire and all that may not be on the food. It may just be, they may just insure the structure. You know, a lot of these supermarkets just self-insure everything. You know, so if they get hit, they'll close. Other stores will close. And that would mean they would be diverted to hitting private houses eventually. What's eventually? How much time? I don't know. Trump is talking very scary. He's saying, he's hoping for 2 weeks, so you figure that's probably 4 weeks the way he moves. So it could happen. it, it's nobody is really able to tell you because there's a lot of fear mongers running around, and it's nobody is really going to be able to tell you uh, that it will happen or it won't happen. They don't know. Nobody does. Okay. And the Democrats that are blocking this may very well be doing this because it's going to cause chaos, and then they're going to blame Trump for it, although they're the ones probably doing it, and get away with blaming Trump and putting it all on Trump, and um, trying to get rid of him, using this as a pretense to get rid of him. I don't know. It makes sense to me. That would be the big reason why they were doing it. They don't care about the people, they care about Trump. And then Trump is talking about only partially funding it, and he's hoping for 2 weeks, so it may be 3 or 4. Partially funding it isn't going to, you know, cut it. You're talking about what, the 4th day of the month now, so people maybe are still got overflow food and funds, but it's going to get ugly, and the people that hate America and have, bad ideas about what they want to cause in America are going to take advantage of that. I don't know if every area is going to be affected. Some states managed to get some money up temporarily to help things for a while, but they're going to run out too. So I don't know what to tell you yet. We just got to watch. Today's just Tuesday. Monday was the first day, really, because the weekend probably didn't count. Let's see what happens. If you start seeing the protests get organized, stay away from them, because these protesters are going to be led to be wild. Just stay away. Don't bother with them. Don't bother with them. And I don't know if it'll ever get to the point where they go to the houses, but it could. I would say you probably got weeks before that happens. Got to keep your eyes open. Okay, so I'll do some prayer here for all the true believers. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for all the true believers. I pray for you to lift off of us all the burdens, the problems, the blockages, the difficulties, the harassments, the discriminations against us by the Satan bots and people that hate us, including but not limited to the Satan bots, and of course the unclean spirits. Take these problems off us and make them go away. And I pray that we have adequate finances, all of us, and then some extra. And I pray for your healing and recuperative power to flow through all of us, all the true believers in their households, and that we don't get sick or hurt or injured, and we keep healing. And the same for our animals and pets, who would also be happy, healthy, and whole, and safe and secure. And I pray that we all, including me and my wife, would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray that we have strength, stamina, and endurance. And I pray for better videos and I'd pray for a piece of Jerusalem. And let me see if I guess that's it. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I want to check something to make sure I didn't overlook anybody's prayer request. My gosh, that would be horrible. Let me take a look. I don't think so. But I just want to make sure. No, I didn't overlook anybody. No. I wouldn't want to overlook anybody. That would be not nice. Okay. So, that's what I got for today. So, those are the things that are weighing on me financially, and my funds are very, 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 very limited. We're going through food insecurity, but we're able to buy food, and we've got to pay our rent every 3 months, so I have to build up to pay the rent. It's a lot of pressure. The food is killing us. My wife can't clean because of the stroke, and when I clean, she says I do a lousy job because I can't see good enough. So we have to pay somebody to come in and clean twice a week. That takes a toll on us, and it's really hard on us now. And we don't have the guest house. Well, that might come back. It might. It looks good. It looks good. And it's an issue. So some people are asking me questions. So the big thing is, we're trying to decide if we should ask people to help us pay to renovate the guest house. Which would be we think $1,000 US. We don't know yet if we should ask people to help us with that because we're not sure it's going to hold. I don't want to just go out and say, "Oh, we need $1,000," and then I raise it, and then what happens? The war's cranked up again, and it's worthless. Why do that? Why should I do that? I don't want to do that. Next comes the router. Now that might be a good thing. I'll investigate it further, but I might start, if anybody has any feelings about that, wanting to help, let me know. It's about $500, give or take, for a router. That's one purchased in Israel, so it uses Israeli electricity. I have a list, I had a list, I could bring it back up, of 3 or 4 of them that they sell in Israel and who sells them. That would be good in jacking up my speeds. I'm also waiting for the company to get back to me and tell me if another company could do better. Now, the other company might have a more modern router. This company didn't offer to give me a more modern router, if they even have one. So I want to get all my, ducks in order so I know what I'm doing, because I don't want to ask people to help and then it doesn't prove like it helped in any way, shape, or form. The other day I was broadcasting, and I checked it before I started, and the speed for the upload was down to 10 megabits per second. Now it's about 79. It was down to 10. That's pretty low, okay? And it should be in the hundreds, okay? Now, the quality of the live stream, if let's say I'm running at 79 or even 100, and then you're running at 300 or 500, the difference is quite a bit. Now, maybe this is enough bandwidth and we don't need it, but since we have buffering issues, I don't know. What I got going on here is I got a repeater. What is a repeater? Let me see if I can show it to you. It looks like this, it's a little thing, and it attaches to, it's wireless. It plugs into the wall, it's wireless, and it hooks up wirelessly to the router and grabs the signal and then broadcasts it to the device I'm broadcasting on, but it's only about that far away. It helps, but the guy told me it's limited to 300 megabits per second. You know, so, but when I run the test on the iPad, I got more than that, I think, but not by much. So what I'm going to do when I get off the air is I'm going to unplug that and then test again with the iPad and see if it gets more without that. But I don't think the signal from the router can get in the room because there's too many walls to go through, and the walls are solid concrete here. They're not sheetrock. Sheetrock's one thing. Nice, thick, solid concrete walls are another problem for the router. So we got our issues, There is another way to do it. The other way to do it is to get tell them I want to get another router put in here, which isn't going to cost me a lot of money. And they put another router in the office. In other words, it's a whole separate fiber optic line. And they put it in here, and I can't hook to an iPad with a cable connection, but since I would only be 3 feet away, I think I would be getting between 600 and 900 speeds, but that's nowhere near as good as what I would be getting with that router. Now, if I had that other system put in here, then I buy that other router for $500 and have it right here, 3 or 4 feet away from me, and it comes in at, let's say, 2,000 megabits, or I would probably be getting 14 or 1,600 right here on the wireless. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to talk. These are the problems that we're going through here. Aside from getting through, buying the food, which is so expensive now, and paying the rent, and I just got hit with a big electricity bill, the bank account, and whoop, But we got it paid, and our water bill is down because my wife's not working on the gardens anymore, so we're not really watering out there. So we do some irrigation though, because there are some trees and stuff. But I think we're going to shut the irrigation off as soon as the rain starts. The water bill's way down, and the electric bill will be down because we're not turning the air conditioning on, and that's what kills it. Turning the internet on, turning the light bulbs on, that doesn't do anything. Running the dishwasher for an hour, that doesn't do it. It's the air conditioning that kills you. Let's see what the weather is today. My wife said it was going up, but I'm not feeling like it's going up. No, I mean, it's going to get hot, but it's not going to be air conditioning. 87. Tomorrow we're going to hit 90. That might be borderline air conditioning. I don't know. Then we'll be back in the no. Yeah, the 80s, not the 90s. No, that's no air conditioning. So that saves us money, and we don't have to heat the hot water. So that saves us. The hot water heating kills us. So we'll have a small electric bill to balance the big one we just had. That'll help. But it's very hard for us to live here. And this past month, October, so few people gave. I got through it. People helped me. Some people bailed me out. That's for sure, and I thank them. But so few people were giving. I don't know what's happened. I think people are falling away. And that is in Matthew 13. There's 4 categories of seeds. And they fall away. Well, let's cover that. I'll be right back. Let me have a break for a minute, and we'll go through that. just like there's people that I know are falling away, I'm also getting people coming back that I haven't heard from for a long, long time. So that's that's interesting, to say the least. Okay. So we go to Matthew 13. Now what verse? Let's try 17. It's actually 18. Matthew 13:18. Hear you therefore the parable of the sower. When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom, and of the reign is the word basilia in Greek, like reign of God, kingdom, and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown to his heart. Oh, wait, I got too far down. Let me go further up. Wait. Oh, let's just go through it on 18. Okay, so what it's saying, in 19, that's the one where Satan catches it away from his heart, takes it away. This is the one which received seed by the wayside. So it wouldn't increase. It wasn't getting nourished. It wasn't in good ground. It wasn't getting watered. So it gave out. He doesn't stay with it. Now in verse 20 it says, but he that receiveth the seed into stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. Yet hath he not root in himself, but dureth for a while. For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. And he gives up. Because the stony places, the roots can't get a good hold and get the nourishment and suck up the moisture and stuff like that. It can't do it. So what I see with these is they're all on fire right away, and then it takes a little time. In the beginning they'll write me and they'll all excited, and then 2-3 months later or so, you never hear from them again forever. They fall away, they go back to church, or they just don't do anything. Because they don't want to be offended. They're not going to pay a price for Yeshua. Even though they're not spilling blood or anything serious, they won't pay the price of losing your social life with your friends and families and neighbors and co-workers because you have the true gospel. They won't even do that. So they're gone. He also that receiveth seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. We got tons of unfruitful people listening to me. Tons of them. They don't do nothing. They don't give offerings. They don't do anything. They just sit there and absorb knowledge and think that's it. Go ye forth into the world and save your money and don't do anything and don't bear any good fruit. It's not the commandment. But he that receiveth seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit, and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. So, in his house he has vessels of gold, silver, bronze, brass, okay? If you're his vessel, it's a very, very good thing. Okay? No matter what the vessel's made out of, it's a very good thing. Now, there's people that'll hang around here and they understand the true gospel, but they won't bear fruit. The tree that doesn't bear good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. That means that those that don't bear good fruit wind up in the pit. That's the fire. Okay? Then the lake of fire. And the ones that don't believe in giving offerings, they're not, believe me, they're not getting any good fruit. They're very satisfied with themselves. Oh, I've got, I know the gospel, the true gospel. But they have no fruit. They're not the right ones. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it, and straight and narrow is the way, and few find it. See, these people that keep listening to me, they have found the gospel, but they don't bear fruit. Now, maybe they will, but I try to wake them up. When you don't do offerings, you're stealing from God. Read Malachi 2, it's there. I don't believe in any of that because you see, they're still in the flesh. They're covetous. Okay? They don't care that I feed them, and they don't help me take care of the material things. They don't care about that because they're covetous. They're only part way into the gospel. In other words, they're into the gospel academically, let's put it that way, but they're not in their lifestyle, not into it. They're not into it with action, because with action they're still covetous, and they don't care about bearing good fruit because they don't care about other people, because covetous people don't care about other people. So why spread the gospel? What do I care? I'll just get what I get. and I got the gospel and I'll go to heaven. That's like the pre-trib rapture people. All they care about is what they want. Now they support their own ministry a heck of a lot more than the people support the true gospel ministry. Now I get a lot of people that are busted up because Satan makes war on who? It tells you in Revelation 12, he makes war on us. And I'll define us right out of the Bible for you. Revelation 12:17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman. That's the woman, that's Israel. That's who Yeshua came forth from. It's not Judah because it says she has 12 stars over her head. So it's not just Judah, it's Israel. With the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, her offspring, the remnant, which keep the commandments of God. So that's keep the law. And have the testimony of Yeshua, which another scripture tells you that's the spirit of prophecy. Okay, let's find that scripture. Bible verse, King James Version, that says the testimony of Jesus. Bible verse, King James Version, that says the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. It's easy to use AI to look things up than it is to just try to use Google or something, which is AI in a limited fashion, by the way. And this is Revelation 19:10. And I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said to me, See thou do it not, I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yeshua. Worship God, for the testimony of Yeshua is the spirit of prophecy. So, what is it saying? It's saying what I'm doing. It's saying that you're learning the law and you're learning prophecy. That's who Satan makes war with, which is you all and me. So what I also do is I teach you how to fight. Okay? Spiritually. And you do good at it, and you learn that well. And it works. And you're bearing fruit. So you're the ones that get hit, and I keep trying to get the spiritual warfare better and better, but we got to understand that there will be a day where you'll be like Paul and you'll call blindness down on them, and other things will happen to them that are going to be in the physical, bad things when they mess with you. And you're going to be much better off, physically, reflex wise, every other way, wisdom, than they will after redemption. They're not going to mess with you. But in the meantime, I try to do it. But if I go too far with it, well, now we're going to be jumping forward out of our time, so the Lord won't let us do that. Okay? Like if we went around, imagine if I went down to Jerusalem and I went to Mount of Olives where all the Jews are buried and I brought them up. Right? Okay. What would the world be like 30 minutes after that? See what I'm saying? Everything has to be in its time. Okay? It has to be in its time. God won't let them hurt you. Okay? He's God. He knows how to do stuff the right way, the perfect way. We don't. I mean, you could call blindness down on them, and you could do a lot of things, but that's going to be changing the world a little bit ahead of its time. And when those things come, and they will come, it's going to be in his time. By the way, I've got some insights. Monaco, remember I told you we talked about those female things getting in and out of the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis and stuff, whatever they are, the transactional people. Well, where does it, that's, I talked about those are the ones that'll be spouses of the other espots, right? Transactional in business, and leaders in nations and stuff like that. But and I told you Melania had some ties there, and Trump and all that. Okay. I believe with the so-called male-looking ones, the men, where they do it is in military schools. The rich and famous kids go to military colleges, don't they? Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what we can do. At least in America. So let's go to work here. Let's get a little bit going on here. I don't know if this is what goes on in other countries. Trump went to military academy. There's a picture of him at it. My heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I bind all the unclean spirits from being inside any person that owns, operates, controls, works for, is a student, or lives in, or at any point in time ever was a student at any of these military academies. When I say the name of the academy, you unclean spirits have to come out of every such person, immediately never return unto them again. This is all done B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, shall apply to the following military academies, and this is not the right list. Okay. Hold on, my Heavenly Father, I gotta get a better list. This is the wrong list. It's not the private ones. Heavenly Father, I'm beginning to read off the names of these military academies now. Culver Military Academy in Indiana. Valley Forge Military Academy and College in Pennsylvania. Marlin Military Institute in Marlin, Alabama. Riverside Military Academy in Gainesville, Florida. And I submit this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, let me try another list. List of exclusive military boarding schools for the wealthy in America. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I bind you unclean spirits from remaining inside any person that's a student at any of these military schools or academies, or ever was a student there ever, and every person who owns, operates, controls, works for, or volunteers for these places. When I read the name of these places, you unclean spirits shall depart from all these people, never to return unto them again, ever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and the first one is Army and Navy Academy in California. The next one is Riverside Preparatory Academy in Georgia. The next one is these are $50,000 a year, over $50,000 a year. The next one is Valley Forge Military Academy in Pennsylvania. The next one is Margrave Military Academy in Virginia. That one's only $46,000 a year. Next one is Missouri Military Academy in Mexico, Missouri. Fork Union Military Academy in Virginia. Marine Military Academy in Texas. New York Military Academy in New York. St. John's Northwestern Academy in Wisconsin. And I submit all this to you, my Heavenly Father. Oh, also I add to this Fishburne Military Academy, Fishburne Military School in Virginia, Camden Military Academy in South Carolina, Oak Ridge Military Academy in North Carolina, what is this? Massanutten Military Academy in Virginia. These words, I never hear these words. Benedictine College Preparatory in Virginia. And I submit all this to you, my Heavenly Father, this binding, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, it's these places that teach them to, like that song, walk like a man, right? Okay. I think it was the Four Seasons. Okay. That's where they sing the walk like a man song. You get my drift? Okay. Over in these places. That's where they get the polishing. These other ones in Monaco are obviously it's someplace over there, and they're in a finishing school for their role in life as Satan bots to the elite. So the ones that are like the female types in Monaco are not necessarily coming from the rich and famous. The ones that are learning to sing the walk like a man at the military academies, they're the ones coming from money. You get the idea? Okay. Everything's all crisscrossed and confusing, because Satan's all crisscrossed and confusing. He's confused himself. So, there you have it. So I think we took care of that. Now, I don't think this concept has applicability in other countries, so we'll have to pursue it. But you could look in the in Google for a picture of Trump at the military academy, and you'll find it. Now, later on in the universities, they get more coverage, more training. Let's B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, I bind all the unclean spirits from being inside any person that owns, operates, controls, work for, volunteers for, or is a member, or ever was a member of the Skull and Bones fraternal type organization that appears at universities. All you unclean spirits have to immediately depart from all these people, never return unto them again, forever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, that's one of them. And there's others. I'll have to pursue that. So they get into universities, and then they join these fraternities that are kind of perhaps specialized for the elite, if you get my transactional drift, and they learn that stuff over there. I don't think the Lord is sitting there and giving me a big shopping list of all things and all places, because I think the fish that we're frying with our spiritual warfare are pretty good fish to fry. Okay? We have to watch ourselves as to not, we don't want to get distracted and go after little piddly goldfish like pastors and things like that, We want to stay after the big fish, the sharks, the big ones. Okay. Let's do an airport dump just to give Satan something to do, right? We don't want Satan going idle on us, do we? Wait a minute, what's wrong here? Something. No, I guess it's okay. All right, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I bind all the unclean spirits from remaining inside any person that's in hold on. Let me get a better list. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, forgive me, but I submit a binding to you. I bind all the unclean spirits to not be able to be inside any person that's hold on. Trying to get this list right, and it's trying to have discussions with me about the list. Now it's taking its sweet time. I don't know what's going on. Well, let me see what I got here. Okay, we're good. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I'm sorry, forgive me. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I bind all the unclean spirits from being inside any person that owns, operates, controls, works for, volunteers for, or is in, at this time, any of the following airports, and I'm going to read a list of them off. And that would include being in their grounds, in their roads, in their parking lot, on their tarmacs, on the landing fields and takeoff fields, in the aircrafts on the field, and in their terminal buildings and other buildings and structures. When I read the name of the airport, the unclean spirits must depart from all these people immediately, never to return unto them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you all that are true believers, you can agree with all these things, by the way. Okay, this shall apply to the following airports: Hartfield, Jackson, Atlanta International Airport, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, Denver International Airport. I'll just start reading call signs: LAX, ORD, YYZ, YVR, YUL, VYC, YEG. London Heathrow Airport, which is LHR. IST Airport, CDG, AMS Airport, MAD Airport, Madrid, that's that airport. DXB, that's the Dubai Airport. DOH, that's Doha. AUH, Istanbul Airport. Dubai World Central, that's DWC. Okay. Apart from all these unclean spirits, apart from all these people now, B'Shem, Yeshua, Mashiach, and you can agree. Okay, let's go on. We'll get other parts of the world. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I submit this binding to you. I bind all the unclean spirits from remaining inside any person that owns, operates, controls, works for, volunteers for, or is in any of the following airports, in any facility of the airport, on the roads, on their tarmac, in the runways, in the planes, on the runways, if they work at the airport, of course, if they're in any of the passenger terminal buildings or any other building, or on the grounds or the roads of the airport. When I read the name of the airport out, the unclean spirits must depart from all these people, never return unto them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with me. Mexico City International Airport, MEX. CUN, Cancun. GDL, Guadalajara. MTY, TIJ, Tijuana. SJD, Cabos. PVR, Puerto Vallarta. BOG, Sao Paulo, okay, that's Brazil, that's GRU, LIM, that's Peru, SCL, that's Chile, BSB, that's Brazil, SDU, that's Brazil, CTG, that's South America, Colombia. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, remember, you believers can agree. Let's do the Asia. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I come to you this binding B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach. I bind the unclean spirits from remaining in any person that's in any of the following airports, be they, including if they own, operate, control, work for, volunteer for, or are in the facility as a passenger, or otherwise any of the facilities the airport has on the runways, and the planes on the runways, and the hangars on the tarmac, in any of the buildings or structures or on the roads or the parking lots. And I submit this to you, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with this as true believers. It shall apply to the following airports: DXB, HND, that's Japan. DEL, that's India. PVG, CANICN, SIN, PEK, BKK, SX, SZX, KUL, TFU, PKX, that's China, HKG, Hong Kong, BOM, that's India, IST, Istanbul. And I submit this to you, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. There we go. So you can agree with this as a believer, even though it's a video. Don't worry, agree with it. God can handle it. You know, people might say, well, does God know the call signs for the airports? Well, you know, in World War II, they used to talk about, I'm not that old. I wasn't born in World War II, but they used to talk about, does God understand radar? Yeah. Of course. Okay, kids. So we cleaned house a little bit, keep the old jackass demons busy. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. Thanks, guys. I hope you got something out of this.